The crisis in public schools isn't just critical race theory. It's not just critical gender theory. It's not just grooming. It's a little bit of all of these things. And while we talk about grooming in the sense that there are adults having secret conversations with children about adult ideas, sexual ones, there is the political grooming ideologies which are overlapping. But there's also more serious issues like schools covering up abuses and assaults or secretly trying to indoctrinate kids beyond just the teacher-student relationship. I mean, like at an institutional level. Today, I give you a story on propaganda, but also a story on get woke, go broke. That's right. An ABC drama called A Million Little Things tried to depict a teacher as the good guy, trying to help his trans student, and the parent says, ooh, racist bigots. And it's propaganda. Sure, I mean, media is. TV shows are. There's ideology in shows all the time. In this instance, it's propaganda towards the left. But it fits so perfectly this current debate that it's a bit more on the nose, and which is why I'm more comfortable calling it propaganda. Star Trek The Next Generation, of course, had ideology in it as well. I wouldn't call it propaganda because it wasn't so on the nose with a lot of political issues, but it did have political issues in it. In this story, we learn that ABC's episode on parental rights in education was the second lowest rated show. Nobody wanted to watch it. Okay, some people clearly did, but a lot of people didn't, and so their ratings went. But more importantly, it's the propaganda. I think they know they're going to take a hit. I think these networks know they're going to lose money, but they want to drive home a political ideology. They're grooming your kids. I'm going to show you the proof, and I'm going to break down this problem for you, but let's talk about how it's manifesting in media. Newsbusters reports, teacher defies parents of trans student on ABC drama. In my class, he gets to be who he is. As the battle for parents' rights in the classroom continues across the country, ABC's liberal drama, A Million Little Things, continue to show where they stand on the issue by painting the parents of a transgender teen as cruel, racist fools, while depicting the teacher as a hero who gets it. Remember that ABC is owned by Disney, the company that came out strongly against Florida's parental rights and education law. And there it is, the political tie. On Wednesday's episode, Out of Hiding, teacher Rome is preparing for a parent-teacher conference at Sussex Prep after complaining that Sussex's parents are stuck up and unable to talk about anything other than martinis and yachts. Oh my. He tells his wife, Regina, he's particularly concerned about his student, Madison, who said she wants to go by Maddox because she's, quote, not a girl. It became clear in last week's episode that Maddox's parents weren't okay with this decision. Maddox hasn't been coming to my class, Rome explains. Madison has. At the end of class, before the conference, Madison Maddox asks Rome to speak to her parents about the situation because he gets it. Do you have a sec, Mr. Howard? Oh, for you, of course. And I really enjoyed that interview with your grandmother. Oh, I think I'm a little scared of her now. Yeah, you definitely don't want to go head-to-head mahjong, blah, 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 blah. Madison/Maddox says, I've tried to tell them that I've always been like this, but they only see me as their little girl. So I was wondering, do you think that you could talk to my parents for me at your conference today? I mean, maybe if Clark and Isabel hear it from an adult who gets it, they'll start to understand. Clark Ainsworth is your dad? Yeah, you know him. Boy, hey, Clark, here comes Rome. Yeah, we went to school together. Of course, I'll talk to them for you. I got your back. Apparently, then it is a flashback to her dad being racist. Come on. Really? You know, things are going downhill when a teacher tries to play hero in opposition to the parents. And of course, the writers made Maddox's father, Clark, to be one of the students who played a horrible racist prank on Rome when they were students. The obvious goal is to vilify the parents as much as possible. This is poisoning the well. It's clear propaganda. The father who is concerned about his daughter did racist things. He apologizes. Clark actually apologizes for the prank at the conference, but it's clear Rome believes some people never change. Clark says, I'm telling you, this guy hasn't aged at all. Guess some people never change. Hey, Clark, how you doing? This is my wife, Isabel, yada, yada. So Clark, the father, says, listen, before we get started, I just want to say, me and some of the guys didn't make it so easy back in the day. It was wrong, and I want to apologize. So we move on, and let me start by saying it's a pleasure to get to know you. The wife says, I've never been so excited. I have never seen her so excited about a class. Oh, it's mutual. Maddox is one of my best students. The father says, Maddox, oh, so she told you. He told me yes. Yeah, look, now, we have to admit this whole Maddox thing it's been a lot to process. The mom goes on. Well, she's always had her things. There was a yoga obsession, and then she's into crystals. Then there was her goth phase. The teacher says, all due respect, I don't think what's going on with Maddox is the same as being way into the cure. But we're here to talk about your child's academic performance. Now, the whole point of documentary filmmaking is to capture the truth on film. In fact, that's how I first learned of Maddox, and he is exceeding all of my expectations. Now I know it must be really difficult letting go of yours, but while he's in my class, at least, he gets to be who he is. Clark says, well, when you put it that way, it all makes perfect sense. Oh, something coming, huh? Regardless of where anyone stands on the issue, the audacity of a teacher to overstep the rights of parents this way is just mind-blowing. What's scary is this is clearly a reflection of how many public school teachers seem to think in real life, hence the fierce debates happening at school boards across the country. Since Sussex is a private school, though parents have more power, especially if they're a top donor, as the Ainsworths are. Okay, this is fiction. It's meant to imitate real life. Art imitates life, but it's also taking a perspective. It's showing you these parents are racists, or that the kid was racist. He's a bigot. He's a bully. He doesn't understand. It's just an obsession. Now, from the sound of things, it seems like the people who made the show clearly are biased, but thought they were being fair. Take a look at this. Rome says, this is a teacher. Uh-oh, somebody narc on me? Tell you I had candy in my lunch? Dre, hey, we need to talk about what happened with the Ainsworth today. What do you mean? Rome, they're some of our top donors, and today they somehow got the impression that you're at the root of what they're calling the Maddox problem. Rome says, what? That's ridiculous. It's not even how it works. They're insisting that I terminate you immediately or they're going to pull all their funding. Woo! Bravo! You'll love to hear it. Now, it's a fictional show. But this is how it should work in real life. It's a private school. If you're enabling these kids and the parents don't like it, whatever your ideology is for, against, whatever, the parents are paying the bills. Go to a public school if you want to be able to be shielded. I also think public schools shouldn't allow teachers more control over the children than the parents. Anyway, Newsbuster says, good for the Ainsworths, of course. Gender dysmorphia isn't a phase or something Rome caused, but he's definitely encouraged it without even speaking to the parents. Until Madison and Maddox is an adult, it's up to the Ainsworth and them alone to research the issue and decide the course of action best for their child. Thankfully, this episode caused viewership to fall to its lowest point ever. This season, a whopping drop of 24% in key demo viewers and a 15.35 in overall viewers. It placed second to last among every show that aired the same night on all major networks. How about these psychotic cult members get it through their thick skulls? We don't want their garbage. Look, I want entertainment, not overt politics, right? Now, some things I think are fine when they involve politics. Some things I think are fine as cultural commentary. I think Star Trek The Next Generation was one of the best shows ever. And it just so happens that I align with a lot of the ideology within the show of classical liberalism. And there's military tradition and stuff in it like that. And free speech, anti-terror, difficult questions. I like the show because I like the ideology within it. Now, this show is addressing current political issues, but it is propaganda. And the reason I differentiate between something like Star Trek and this show is that Star Trek dealt with some issues, but there were generalized questions around politics and how we as Americans, viewed them. This show is about current events, a literal current event that is happening right now, and giving you a perspective where they inject a racist. In Star Trek The Next Generation, one of the most famous examples of politics is Data, the android, talking to the captain saying, I don't understand terrorism. And there's a group of people on the planet who are engaged in terror. They show you the perspective of the terrorists, and one of the characters actually advocates for their safety and protection. Because it wasn't just, it's all bad all the time. It's, take a look at this issue, the repercussions, the consequences, why people embrace it, how they feel. It's more like what I would do here. It's more like saying, there's a real reason these people embraced these politics. The difference here is they make this guy out to be a racist for no reason, poisoning the well with the intent to manipulate. Now, they're going to say it's a slippery slope as the battle between parents and schools continue. If we don't fight and push back, things get worse. Okay, let's talk about where we're at. First, here we go. From the Washington Post, April 5th. Teachers who mention sexuality are grooming kids, conservatives say. Shut your pathetic trash mouths. It's not true. Now, I'm sure if you want a straw man, that's what you will get. The real argument is that teachers who have conversations with children in secret and tell them not to tell their parents are grooming these kids. More so when the teachers say things like, don't you feel this way? Have you ever felt this way? Yes, that's grooming. I'll give you the example from Helena, who we had on the show. And forgive me, Helena, for constantly referencing you so much on this show, but it was an important example. That Helena said she went on Tumblr, and they would say things like, maybe you're trans. Have you ever thought about it? You didn't? Try cutting your hair short and see how you feel. No big deal, your hair will grow back. Then the person cuts their hair. This kid, a 13-year-old, they go online and everyone starts clapping and cheering. You're so amazing. Don't you feel good? Because everyone thinks you're so cool. Well, of course you feel good when people compliment your haircut. You feel great. I do feel good. That's not because they're complimenting you. It's because you're trans. So why don't you try something else? Hey, why don't you try wearing some boys' clothes? See how you feel. It's no big deal. You can always take the clothes off. So they do. Same thing happens. Wow, you look so cool. Whoa, you were like the coolest person ever. That's grooming. So when kids are in these schools and you have parents and who are being kept out of the conversation, grooming. Here's the straw man from the Washington Post, and here's the reality. California mother claims teachers manipulated her daughter to change her identity. This is just one of many stories. Take a look at this. According to the suit, at the Equality Club meetings, Miss Caldiera and Miss Baraki would coach students on LGBTQ plus identities, such as homosexual, bisexual, trans, gender nonconforming, and how to express those identities. And then what happens? So there's this image that went around, and it shows a bunch of flags, like the trans flag, and then there's the cisgender flag, and it's black and white. That's grooming. You show a kid a black and white boring image, and then you show them cool colors and excitement and say, isn't that one cool? What about that one? And then they look at the black and white one, and they're like, that one's stupid. That one's boring. Oh, you don't like that one? You must be secretly trying to tell me something. That's grooming. You're presenting things to them and saying, isn't this cool? Isn't this good? Isn't this better? Isn't this one bad and wrong and bigoted? White people, men, gender, oof. Of course, the kids then want to choose the one they think is better, that you are telling them is good. Take a look at this. Conan said she decided to take action after leaked audio from the California Teachers Association LGBTQ plus conference allegedly showed Baraki and Caldiera discussing their methods of running the club without parents' knowledge of the kids' participation. Quote, when we're doing our virtual learning, we totally stalked what they were doing on Google when they weren't doing schoolwork, Baraki said in the recording. One of them was Googling Trans Day of Visibility, and we're like, check, we're going to invite that kid when we get back on campus. Spreckles Union Elementary School Superintendent Eric Tarallo refused to comment on Conan's lawsuit, but said Caldiera and Baraki will remain on administrative leave pending an independent investigation. The claims submitted by Conan will be addressed in the appropriate manner with the judicial system. We are currently reviewing and updating our policies and procedures regarding student clubs and blah, 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 blah. And they said, this stalking was a joke. We didn't mean it, but we were spying on them. So you have teachers spying on kids' Google, bringing them to these clubs. There's also the story that came out recently where a student was invited to art club. And the mom was like, cool, art club sounds great. But it was actually LGBTQ club where the kid was lectured on certain issues. There's the case in Florida where a little girl, a 13-year-old girl, tried to kill herself. We have this. Kansas school can't block Christian teacher from outing transgender student to parents, judge rules. This is from today. Why? Because the parents need to know. If the parents physically abuse their kid, okay, well then maybe the state or someone should intervene to stop that crime from happening. But we're talking about mental issues, depression, dysphoria. The parents need to do something to help. A federal judge is blocking a Kansas public schools policy preventing teachers from outing trans students to their parents. Quite literally, the school was trying to prevent teachers from talking to parents about the issues the kids were facing. Fort Riley Middle School math teacher Pamela Rickard sued for USD 475 Geary County Schools over LGBTQ anti-discrimination policies that conflicted with her Christian beliefs. District Judge Holly Teeter issued a preliminary injunction on Monday, blocking the school from disciplining Rickard if she reveals preferred names and pronouns of her trans students when communicating with their parents. The court relies on plaintiff's statement that she does not intend to communicate with a parent for the sole purpose of disclosing a student's preferred name or pronouns. Rickard has 2 trans students in her class, the judge wrote, neither of whom have authorized the district to disclose their preferred names and pronouns to their parents. While Rickard uses their preferred names in class and avoids pronouns, she has emailed parents using a student's legal name and biological pronouns. Plaintiff believes that addressing students one way at school and a different way while speaking to parents is dishonest. Being dishonest violates her sincere religious beliefs. Teeter, who was appointed by former President Trump, ordered the injunction to remain in place until May 18th or until Rickard's contractual responsibilities to the district end, whichever comes last. While the order is not permanent, does not apply to other teachers, it could set a precedent as other districts wrestle with similar diversity and inclusion policies. They're grooming your kids. They're grooming your kids. They're changing the definition of grooming. Here's what a teacher should say. 2 + 2 = 4. 4 + 4 = 8. 2 times 2 is still 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. Thank you, teacher, for giving me basic math lessons. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's what a teacher should be saying. A teacher should be talking about certain issues in social studies. And a teacher can absolutely talk to, in an age-appropriate way, about the goings-on in certain countries with LGBTQ issues. I completely think so. I think a teacher should be able to say to their students that one of the big political challenges we face in this country has to do with LGBTQ rights and gender and things like this. However, to get into what these things are, outside of the mainstream news, you should talk to your parents about these issues. If a teacher is going to talk about social studies and they're going to say, here's what's happening in the world today, I have no issue. But you don't talk to a 5-year-old about war. You don't show a 5-year-old someone being blown up. There are certain things that we think children are not equipped for, and it's up to the parents to decide. It always is. If a parent says, my kid should learn about the horrors of Ukraine and Russia's war in Ukraine, oh, okay, I mean, that's the parent, I guess. Far be it from me to decide for the parent. If the parent tries showing lewd materials to their kid, then at certain ages, there's the birds and the bees conversation. But at young ages, I'd have serious issues and may even want Child Protective Services to come in. If you have when we're talking about 3rd grade, we're talking about 8-year-olds. So kindergarten to 3rd grade is like 5 to 9 is the range, right? Theoretically, it could be 4 years old to 9 years old. Yeah, parents shouldn't be, I don't even think parents should be showing that stuff to their kids. There are questions, though, about how it's done and if it can be done properly and tastefully. And what I mean by that is, if a kid grows up on a farm, he sees chickens banging, he sees goats banging, he's going to have that conversation and understand it. That doesn't mean the parent should be showing Hustler to little kids. Let me talk to you about what they're doing to your kids. Do you ever read a Playboy? You ever open up a Playboy magazine? Playboy is not, it's fair to say, it's not porn. It might be. Or at the very least, it's the thin, it's like on the line. Playboy has articles, and it has naked women. But it doesn't have overt acts like many other magazines do. So I guess you could call it porn, right? The idea is, even though you've got centerfolds of nude women, and there's no adult acts, you don't put this in a children's library. The book Genderqueer, that has been removed from these schools, the left calls it banning books, yet it depicts overt adult activities on more than one occasion with statements like banning that. Playboy is not even as bad as that. Imagine if a school said Playboy's allowed, it's just a naked woman. We'd be like, no, absolutely not. I suppose that means y'all are conservative because you don't want children exposed to sex. But if that's the direction we're going, the left is absolutely driving in the direction of pedophilia. So when you get people on the right saying the left are all pedos or whatever, and they're like, no, we're not, that's a straw man, I gotta say, if you continually argue for involving children in adult conversations and showing them these things, yes, you are. I'm not saying that these teachers are doing things to their kids. Some teachers do. And it's not. I'm when it comes to discussions about LGBT issues, it's grooming. Is talking to a 5-year-old about the birds and the bees. And look, when I was in grade school, in 5th grade, we had sex at 9 years old. It was not about sexual activities between people. It was just sexual function. The boys watched the boys, then the boys were taken out of the room, and the girls were brought in to watch the girls, and they were kept separate. Parents had to agree to it, and one kid actually got taken out of class. Parents get to decide. So when they say it's not happening, they're lying. And of course they're lying. That's why I don't even understand what's the point. I see people constantly quote tweeting and talking, and I'm like, at this point, we get it. And maybe there are people who don't get it. But I really don't understand. You know what? Here's the challenge we face. Every day, we must say no. I had a conversation with a friend in New York. They didn't know Democrats were trying to codify abortion at 9 months. And, you know, my friend's telling me he's pro-choice. And he's like, I think the woman should have the right to choose. And I said, the problem is pro-choice today means abortion at 9 months. And he was like, no, it doesn't. I showed him the bill. The bill says, as I mentioned in the previous segment, that after viability, meaning the baby can survive, you can kill it. And I said, if you have to remove the baby from the woman because of a complication to her health, why kill the baby? He didn't know. He's like, I'll have to check into that. I don't know. I showed him the bill. I showed him the website. I showed him the news reports. And I said, it's all right there. This is congress.gov. I'm not making this up. And it's shock. It's like, what? Most people, I think, when they read this news and they're lied to, like the Washington Post says, teachers who mention sexuality are grooming kids, is an overt simplification. It is a hyper oversimplification. Regular people hear that. They believe it. So we have to make sure we share these stories and give them the evidence. Get woke, go broke, though, for ABC. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.